Hey everybody, welcome back to another World of Tanks video. We'll be doing another Blitz showcase video, and today we're going to be doing it on the second German tank. I will be reviewing the Panzer V-4. Now, the Panzer V-4, at least in the PC version, is a fairly rare tank. I believe it is a pre-order tank that was where you had to buy gold to kind of kickstart the game, and they gave this to you in one of the packages. In the Blitz version, interestingly enough, it is something you can get as a premium tank, purchasable from gold, right off of the tech tree here. And as you can see, there's actually specials going on right now. Over the lunar weekend here, you can get 40% off on Tier 5s, which means you can get a pretty good deal on a Panzer V-4. Anyways, so let's talk about the tank. If you look at it here, it's very big, and that is because it is a Panther hull, and that Panther hull is at Tier 5, which is pretty nice because it has armor, it has mobility, and it can ram things because it is heavy. And the turret obviously is a Panzer IV, because why would you call it a Panzer V-4 if it didn't have something from a Panzer IV? Downside about this is you get a okay gun, you get a 75 L48, not the best gun in the world, and it's a fairly weak turret. Even if it has the skirt armor on there, people are still going to pen it. So, is what it is. But, still not a bad tank. Now, as I said, this is a very big tank. Even though it's classed as a medium in the game, I'd consider it more of a heavy or a heavium, if you want to call it. Because if you play this thing as a medium like I did, well, the results might be... well, they might be less than spectacular, so just keep that in mind. But if you run with the heavies, you might be doing a little bit better. At least for me, that's what helped me a lot, was to run with the heavies. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and I'll bring up a little comparison like I've done before in other videos. And same rules apply. If it's green, Blitz version is better. If it's orange, they're equal. The PC and the Blitz version are equal. And if it's red, the Blitz version is worse than the PC version. So if we start off in the firepower department here, you'll notice that the DPM is definitely worse in the Blitz version. And I feel like this is a very common thing, at least in Tier 5 and below, where the guns just seem to have longer reloads and worse rates of fire. I don't know if that's a balancing thing or what. I was out of the Blitz game for a very long time, and when I came back, I started doing these little videos, and that's when I started noticing that there is a pretty big disparity versus the PC version and the Blitz version when it comes to weaponry in Tier 5 and below. And this is very similar to the KV-1, where I believe it was like a 12-second reload on the 85mm in the Blitz version, where that's about the reload time for the 122 in the PC version. So now, with a reduced DPM, obviously comes a reduced rate of fire and reload. And as you can see here, the reload in the PC version's close to 3.5 seconds, where in the Blitz version, it's close to 7 3/4 seconds, which means you're getting about half as many rounds out in the Blitz version than the PC version. One saving grace, at least, is you do have better alpha at 160 versus 110. So at least your shots will make a little bit more of an impact than it would in the regular game on PC. Because in my opinion, any of those 75 L48s, when they're firing at 110 per shot, it doesn't feel like really anything happens. Other tanks usually eat up the damage pretty quick. Penetration's the same in both, which is pretty normal so far. Guns seem to be very similar when it comes to the penetration values. Also, caliber and shell velocity, those have also been fairly similar. I've yet to find a tank that has better shell velocity in Blitz or worse shell velocity in Blitz versus the PC version. When it comes to gun handling, the Blitz version is slightly worse, not by a whole lot, but the aim time is definitely slower at 2.2 seconds versus 1.9 in the PC, and the dispersion at 0.37 is definitely worse than the 0.35 in the PC version. At least it's not like 0.4 or something like that. In terms of the dispersion while moving and rotating, which I'm going to assume rotating and tank traverse is the same thing. Otherwise, I should be looking at turret traverse, in that case, the PC version wins. But the moving aspect, the Blitz version is worse at 0.15, but if you're looking at rotation and tank traverse, they're actually equal at 0.15, so not bad. And if you look here at the gun depression, they are the same at 10 down and 20 up, though I will say, if you are doing the gun depression and you're trying to get 10 degrees, you will not get it from the front, and you will not get it from the back. You're going to be getting 10 degrees off of the side, which opens you up to getting shot from the side. Hopefully you can keep your hull down out of the way, because that's the only way you're going to get 10 degrees, but you're also going to get pounded if you expose your side armor, because the side armor is much weaker than the frontal armor. But that being said, if we move on to the mobility department here, it's actually fairly the same. I mean, it's identical save for the power to weight ratio, which I'll get into in a minute, but same forwards and backwards, 55 forwards, 20 backwards, same horsepower, 700, and the power to weight ratio, like I said, is pretty close. They're both 17.3 or 17.2. Now, the Blitz version does look better, but I'll kind of go into why the power to weight ratio is better on the Blitz version versus the PC if it's not obvious yet. If you look at the terrain resistance, Blitz version's slightly worse in the first two departments, but in the third department, which is usually the softest terrain or like going through water, the Blitz version is better at 1.7 versus 2.1, and that's a pretty decent difference. I mean, hopefully that gets you through that nasty terrain quicker, which is nice because that means you can get on the move and keep doing what you're doing. Now, when it comes to camo, for such a big tank, I'm not expecting a lot. The PC version is 10.5 while stationary and 7.9 while moving, but surprisingly, the Blitz version is 19 while stationary and 14 while moving. And in my opinion, at least medium tanks, I feel like camo's a bigger deal. It's something you want better of, and for such a big tank, that's not bad. Now, if we go down to the HP department, you will see here it is slightly better in the Blitz version at 700 versus 680, which is nice. And then one thing I wanted to touch on, and this goes back to the power to weight ratio. The reason why the power to weight ratio is slightly better on the Blitz version is because it is slightly lighter. Being slightly lighter is sort of a downside, because if you want to ram tanks, you obviously want to be a heavier tank like the PC version. Even though this difference is fairly slight, it is something to know. But I guess the trade-off here would be that since you are lighter and you can get up to speed quicker, you should be able to ram harder, which means you would cause more damage. And then finally, in the armor department, they are surprisingly identical, because if you remember the KV-1 had worse hull armor than the PC version. So it was sort of surprising here to see that the turret and the hull are equally the same when it comes to the PC and Blitz version. And the strongest point here obviously is that 85 millimeters up in the front of the tank. And personally, due to the fact that it has fairly thick armor and it's sloped, one of the things I do personally is in the equipment I use enhanced armor, which will strengthen the armor 4%. So both the turret and the hull, you're going to get a little bit stronger armor, which hopefully means more bounces from tier 4s and 5s, and maybe a saving bounce or two from a tier 6. But the turret armor being the same, I mean, it's not a very strong turret. Like I said, you have that skirt armor, but I mean, 30 millimeters on the sides is still going to penetrate no matter what. I mean, maybe it'll save you from HE or some heat rounds, but outside of that, the turret's weak. But it's a Panzer IV turret. What do you expect? Anyways, since I've gone over all of that, I'll go ahead and show you guys some gameplay. I'll do 3 videos. That seems to be what I'm going to be doing from here on out. It's just very common and easy. Now, I will say that this footage is actually a little bit older. It's prior to the 7.6 update, because I did not know you could save the replays somewhere else on your PC. So in fear of them being deleted, I made the video very soon, ASAP actually, once I got the replays, and then I came back and did this. Now knowing that I can save replays in different spots and hold on to them and then put them back into the replay folder and then replay them at a later date, this shouldn't be an issue. But if I look different, that's why. Anyways, let's go ahead and we'll get on to the videos. So here we are, snow level. Got my cool little camouflage for it. And it's a fairly balanced team. That's the nice thing about Blitz, at least I've noticed, is teams seem to be balanced, which is cool in my opinion, because then I don't have to worry about, you know, having a one-sided curb stomp, though sometimes that happens. Anyways, so we're off. Now, originally I would play this tank as a medium, and I'd probably go up towards the hill. Well, that's probably not the best idea, because I have almost no gun depression since my turret is super tiny on such a big hull. So I decided to kind of play as what a heavy would do, and get into some close quarters areas and see if I can do any sort of damage over here. Nothing yet. I do see, I think that's one of the thing about World of Tanks Blitz is they have some interesting, I want to call them promotional or like special edition tanks. The Spike being one of them. I don't quite know where it's from. It kind of looks a little bit Mad Max. Kind of cool, just I don't know what it's supposed to represent. Anyways, so I see him bouncing along. Looks like he's going to try and take the trench. Now, I know I'm spotted already, so I'm assuming he's going to come up and say hello. He slows down. I don't know if he's changing his mind. Nope, he decides to come up this way. He bounces. I put a shot into him. And then I ram him and do almost the same amount of damage as my shot did, which is amazing. I decided to bork that shot. I shot it right into the snow. He's only managed to take one shot on me. Now the Sherman's kind of showing him what's up. And he's busy with the Sherman, so I take care of him. Now we have the T1 Heavy, which is... Oh, nope, sorry, just kidding. Looks like a Blitz bomb decided to show up to the party. He comes blazing in. I don't know if he didn't notice me or what. He goes after the Sherman. He bounces a shot off me. I hit him. Now, he's only down to one shot. I'm hoping maybe... Oh, no, he puts one through, but I've only taken 2 shots so far. I finish him off. So I've blocked about 300 damage, and I've put out about 800. Not spectacular like I have done with the Leopard, but now it's down to the T1 Heavy and me. Now, this is what I'd consider a more realistic, in terms of armor, match here. T1's trying to circle me or outmaneuver me. I decide to take the high ground. And I also have a Leopard. As you can see, the Leopard is very helpful in situations like this. Now, the T1's going to all of a sudden be distracted by this Leopard, and I'm going to come flying in, give him about 100 damage just from ramming, and then I just decide to put a shell in him, and the Leopard, I put him off. Yep, there we go. So, good teamwork there. Very good job with that Leopard. He distracted, and I took the opportunity and took him out. Now, there's still 2 tanks left. There's a medium tank and a light tank, both Russian. Looks like the A-20 took out our medium. I'm running along here as fast as I can. This tank is not very fast. That is one thing about this guy. He's a chunky boy. And somebody said they need help. I said, yeah, I'm on it. I come flying up. I hope I can get a shot on the T-34. I miss. A-20 manages to pop me. So I'm down to almost... pretty much a one-shot at this point for a few of these tanks. Now, I don't want to drive all the way out once again, just choke and miss the shot on that T-34, but it looks like everyone's taking care of the T-34, so I'm not too worried. So I figured now, I'll take the A-20, he's distracted, and I go ahead and pop one shot off, and I'm hoping maybe I can get him one more time, and right there in the cheek, pop the top, no more. So once again, I spawn on the same side as I did with the Leopard, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing as I did with the Leopard. I'm going to go down that alleyway where the railroad tracks are and hope that I run into some stuff that I can either ram or, put out and knock them out. Now, originally I go down this way because I was assuming the T1 Heavy was going to go that way. Since he decides not to, I check, I see the Leopard flying down there, I go ahead and switch gears and flip around, so I'm actually the last one in line here at this point, which kind of my bad. But I figure if we're going to do that, well, I'm just going to go, ham, and, well, one Leopard's already taken care of. So I see the other Panzer V over there, and I see a Sturmgeschütze G, which actually I think they don't have the B variant in this like they do in the tanks PC, so this is done. Anyways, so they're bouncing. I see a shot that I could take in his upper casemate. I hit him, pens, no problem. It's one of the other things I do recommend for the L48 guns. I do increase the penetration. 110 can be a little weak sometimes. 115 sometimes is just enough to get through the front. I take him on the other side of the casemate, pop him. The Panzer V manages to take out our Panzer IV. I bounce a shot from the Stug, and I back and forth him. I almost hit him there. I wish that shot just sailed right over the ceiling of the tank there. So I decided to move up because the Stug is now trying to do some sort of maneuver to either hide himself or, yeah, get himself into an ambush position. He ambushes me, and I don't go off with the shell. I just take him out that way. I choke the shell on the other 5.4. My track gets repaired. I don't see a Hetzer coming at me. I thought maybe he'd see me or he'd slow down. Nope, he's still coming. And I go ahead and take him inside. Doesn't pay any attention to me. He seems to be going after the R Stug for some reason. And I miss him again. I managed to get one shot. I figured he's done because I figured Black Prince will take care of him. Now, Matilda, which is considered a heavy tank in Blitz versus a medium, but it's still just as strong as it is in PC as Blitz. He's firing shots on me. I'm angry. He decides to take out the Black Prince other than me. Now, I got some health, so I'm not too worried. I know another tank is taking shots at me. It was this Stritz bomb right here. He manages to take out the Stug. I decide to pop him. And then I hit him for combined damage of almost 300 or so there. And I took him out. 1,300 damage. Woo! And once again, if I was a medium, I'd probably go towards that hill straight ahead. But knowing how well the 5.4 is going to do in any sort of angled situation, up or down, due to the elevation and depression of the gun and the turret placement, I figure it's probably not a good idea. So I kind of just hang around for a second to see where the heavies are going to start moving, because I usually want to accompany them, since I feel like I'm just as strong as the heavies of Tier 5 are. I stop for a second. I kind of see where everyone's going. We're all kind of moving in the same spot here. I see a Stritz Von, which seems to be a real common one for all my Panzer V matches so far. I can't really get a shot on any of these tanks here, so I just kind of hang out for a second. I start making my way up. There's an M5 Stuart there, which the M5 Stuart is going to catch me here in just a second. There you go. And also you can see back there how bad the gun depression is. It's already bouncing and I'm on level ground. I give him a little tap back for that 65 damage they did to me. I gave him 165. Now there is another T1 Heavy. Now I start rocking back and forth because I also see the Panzer IV up there, which could probably take some pot shots on me. T1 Heavy seems to really be invested in taking out that T-34. So I go ahead, pops one off on me, I hit him on that lower plate where it's a little bit thinner than the rest of the front of the tank, and he's taken care of. Now I see Sherman. Sherman gets taken out, so I'm not worried about him either, which means I can move towards the M5 Stuart, who looks like he's going to start running away, which I don't blame him. I pop one shot and on time, anti-tank gun takes him out. Bye-bye. So we've already managed to take 4 tanks off the field here. They still have 2 heavies in the medium, which we just saw over there, the Stritz Von, and there's a BDR. And they're bouncing off of the BDR. He's fairly strong armored. I go ahead and pop over the hill. Now I see he's in the bush, but for some reason he's not firing at me yet. I get spotted, which I'm not surprised. All of a sudden he takes off, but he doesn't move very far, so he kind of wastes his little turbo move there. I blow that tank up, the 6 bombs done, so now I just have to worry about 1v1ing this BDR. Also, there's the Matilda, so I could do one of 2 things. I can go after the BDR, or I can head after the Matilda. I start bouncing the shots off the Matilda as my front armor is just pretty darn thick. Now I figure I'm going to go ahead and ram him. Why not? Hit him for almost 200 damage, that puts him down. He's still bouncing off me, and he's taken care of. The BDR gets taken out while we're taking care of this, and that's that. Once again, I usually don't show this, but just due to the fact the way it's moving, I'll go ahead and here's all my ribbons and such. Still not a bad match. So, what do I think about the Panzer V-4? Well, personally, I think it's a really good tank, especially since you can get it as a premium tank in the tech tree. That's pretty cool. But, I mean, it has a lot of good things going for it. Like I said earlier, it's got good armor, it's got good mobility, it can ram things, it can really do some damage, and it's a fun tank, especially when you start getting a little ram crazy and you start bouncing shots off of lower tier tanks and you start ramming them and doing real high amounts of damage. It's a fun tank. If it's a tank that you've wanted in the PC version, which is hard because outside of the pre-order, I believe it was only available in the black market once, you come on over to Blitz and just get it and go. I mean, and if you do it on the weekend right now, you get a discount on it, 40% off. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. But I mean, overall, this is a keeper for me. I like this tank. It's fun. And as long as you kind of play your role right, which in my opinion means running with the heavies versus running with the mediums, it does pretty well. But that's just my opinion. And I'm a fairly average player. I am not a great player by any means. I've said that in previous videos. But that's just my opinion on it. But I think I'll end the video here. I hope you enjoyed. And I do hope I will see you in the next video. But for now, take it easy.